All right, so two New Yorkers and a Texan walk into a bar. Hey now. Hey now.
Wasn't sure where you were going with that.
And the Texan gets his ass beaten.
Shit. Welcome to episode 10 of the Batman on Film Satellite Show, the BOF Satellite Show, where we talk about, Eric, what do we talk about? Whatever the hell we want to talk about.
It's true. Yeah, this is kind of the open book show, the unscripted.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, Eric Holzman, my co-host, BOF senior contributor, and the guy with 5 million podcasts. What's up, Long Island and the house?
What's up?
You know, I don't know what I'm doing right now. You know, what's funny, dude, is I want to reference, like, I'm in Dallas, but I'm in Houston 60%, 70% of my life now. And Bill Ramey, editor-in-chief of Batman on Film, he and I swapped zip codes about a year and a half ago, which is really kind of funny, dude. You know what I mean? I'm 3 miles from his old house. Okay, that's for those of you listening that don't know what the hell we're talking about, my name is Rick Shew. You are listening to the Batman on Film Satellite Show. We really appreciate you guys tuning in, supporting this. It is episode 10. I think that's right. If not, I'll get reamed on Twitter and Facebook like I always do anyway, so what difference does it make? Eric, talk to me, dude. What's up? How are you?
I'm doing all right. Doing okay. I'm actually watching some Olympics. I'm one of the few people that's actually watching it.
I was like, yeah.
Not many people are watching. So
people.
Yeah, so I'm giving it. It's the snowboarding. It's Shaun White's final Olympics. So if you know who Shaun White is, I'm checking that out. Hopefully can win. But other than that, nah, man, just working and doing stuff with you and looking forward to the trip. Looking forward to seeing you guys.
All right, so let's jump to that for a second. And I don't want to leave our guests hanging too much. Then again, kind of, if that guy, he's been a guest a million times. Kidding. Yeah.
I hang to the left.
Aaron Viola from Fanboy Podcast, another. You're technically also from Long Island. You guys are like in the same neighborhood, right?
No,
I was like, Long Island is a very, very long island.
Know.
Thank you.
I know. Hey, I grew up in Texas. I get all the time. I got a friend from Texas. You might know him. Yeah, because it's a really small.
Yeah, it's from El Paso.
Like the biggest state. Yeah,
I know.
I'm in Dallas. I'm from Dallas. I can drive 4 states before I can get to El Paso.
Well, you were talking about living in Houston or spending 60% of your time in Houston. And my brother lives in Houston, but I'm not going to ask you exactly where you are because one, I don't know shit about. I'm sorry, I don't know anything about Houston, and it's pretty big. That's all I know.
No, it's big. Huge. And no, listen, I grew up hating Houston in a lot of ways, but I have a lot of roots here. And then obviously later in life, I fall in love again. And when I say fall in love again, I get remarried. And you didn't expect that to happen. It did. Best thing that ever happened to me. And, she lived here. And so we just kind of made it work where we go back and forth between Dallas and Houston. We have a house here, an apartment there, and it's not easy, but we do it. She's worth it. My kids are worth it. Her kids are worth it. It's fun. And here's the crazy part, dude. We got an apartment in Dallas because, by the way, it's cheaper than living in hotels 6 to 10 nights a month. FYI. Okay. So that's why Jen and I went that route. We're like, we're going to save money and I can cook. Yeah. We don't eat out every meal. But we actually got our apartment like a quarter mile from Bill and Rachel's house. It's kind of, it's hilarious.
Good for y'all.
But anyway, so here we are. So Fanboy Garage, Aaron Viola, dude, I've missed you, man.
I know, man. It's been a while since we've done one of these things. I think the last one we did was Star Wars. No, actually, it was not. No, it was for the Star Wars. I think we did a Mandalorian one on my show.
Was that was on your show? That was on Fanboy Garage.
It was the first season.
Yeah, man.
I think it was.
And I want to loop back around to what Eric was kind of referencing a moment ago. Was that he's going to see me in Dallas March 5th for the Batman on Film, the Batman Watch Party, and then. Eric and I get to hook back up in just a few weeks after that. I'll be in New York with my wife and stepdaughter. And Aaron, you're going to hook up with me there and us there as well. And that's just so freaking awesome. I get to see Eric twice in 1 month, get to see you again. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, right. Stoked. I know. Sucks.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm very jealous about your guys' watch party. I really am. I'm like, man, I need a group of people to go watch the Batman with. I've been rolling solo to these films as of late, and you get out bursting with all of this excitement and want to talk about the thing you just saw.
True.
And it's awesome that you guys are getting together. 2020, 2021 has been they've been a mother effer of years. And, I'm a little envious that you guys are getting together.
We were just talking off mic about this, about meeting people in person for the first time that you've had, internet friendships with. And it's a little bit, pardon the R-rated language here, it's a mind fuck. It is. Like, you have these relationships you accumulate, and then all of a sudden you're in person years later. You're going, oh, wow, you're flesh and blood. This is weird. Yeah. But I've kind of gotten used to that now. But when we all hooked up in New York a couple of years ago, the two of you included, remember we met our buddy Matty Fleck. He came in from Philly. And I'd like to see that dude again. He lost all that weight and got healthy.
He's out there flexing guns like every day.
Hell yeah. Anybody thinks that dude's being cheesy, man, F you. That dude earned that. He can flex every day for the rest of his life. I don't care.
And Rick, by the way, and for those that don't know, Rick is hella tall. Rick's a big dude.
Me?
Yeah, man. You're tall as hell. I didn't realize how tall you were until I thought I was tall.
Eric, I keep warning Eric Lauer that he keeps running his mouth. I'm like, dude, 6'3", 225, 230, Mesquite, Texas. I'm kidding. Anybody knows Mesquite, Texas. But, Please. You New York. This is the funny thing about New Yorkers and Texans. And I learned this many years ago. My first trip to New York was in the 97, 98. Fell in love with it. It's like my favorite city. But Texans and New Yorkers really are very similar personalities, man. We really are. Different accents or whatever, but we are kind of we wear our heart on our sleeve, but we also are straight shooters. Yeah. At the end of the day,
you guys literally are straight shooters.
Yeah, literally straight shooters. It's like
gun toting. No, I'm sorry. That's so close.
I'll have you on the Left Crew Politics podcast. We'll talk about guns. All right, listen. So this is episode 10 of the Satellite Show. This show is dedicated to the Boba Fett series. Can't wait to discuss it with you, gentlemen. We're all big Star Wars fans. Season finale was yesterday. But before we do, since this is our Batman film mothership, let's talk a little Batman just right out of the gate here. We talked about the BOF watch party. It's so exciting to see the tickets just flying. I say flying off the shelf. That's kind of an old school saying.
It's okay. I know what you mean.
But you know what I mean. It's already has signs of being quite successful, which doesn't surprise me. But just the general feeling I have right now and the hype, and by the time the watch party rolls around, I will have seen it probably twice. Eric, I know where you're at. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's let our guests kind of jump in here. Aaron, you're a Batman fan. How do you feel about this film? Are you pumped for it? Are you excited? Do you like what you're seeing so far?
I'm stoked. I've actually, so I saw the Bat and Cat trailer, and that was it. That was enough. I was like, okay, I'm good.
Right. Yeah.
I'm good. I don't want to see anything more. I saw the image of the Riddler post, and I've been listening to the Batman theme, which is intriguing because it starts off really dark and then kind of gets into this super melodic like strings thing, which I was not expecting. But I usually take cues from music when they release music. Like the score, I will give it a listen. I usually take my cues of like what kind of film I may predict it to be, and I'm super excited just based on the music. So yeah, it looks phenomenal. We just talked about the budget that was released this past week, $100 million
on Fanboy. You did,
yeah. So and people were complaining about it, and we we're like, there's been a whole lot of great movies that have been made for less. Yep, but I'm excited. I'm very, very excited for it. I haven't gotten my tickets yet. I hope to get them this week so I can see it opening night.
Dude,
I'm all in.
Eric, this is what you and I signed up for with BOF, dude. Like solo Batman films. Not to say that we can't enjoy Batman and other facets of media. Of course we can. Yes. But in terms of movies, our sensibilities collectively, even though they vary and under that umbrella, but so collectively we want grounded, solid, badass Batman films. Right? At the end of the day.
That's what this one is. I just want good Batman films. I'll take them however I could get them.
That's fair. I agree with that sentiment. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. However they come, and whoever the director is, and who's ever writing it, making the story. I just want it to be good. But from the first trailer that we got at Fandom, I've been down for this one. Like this movie. this movie just really looks even more gritty and darker than we got from Nolan, right? Like Nolan's kind of looks like neon campy stuff compared to that's what we've seen about this.
All of a sudden, Joe Schumacher,
yeah. Like we've definitely looks like this is going to be much darker. I've loved
and to be fair, they're standing on his shoulders at the same time, right? There's a
right. I mean, he's the standard, right? He set such a high bar, so now you couldn't have done something like that because everyone would have been like, "Oh, you're just copying him," which some people think anyway. But that's a different topic for a different time. But yeah, I'm really stoked for this. I can't wait. And it's going to be fun watching a Batman movie with you guys because I watched the Wonder Woman movie with you guys, which I loved, but this is going to be Batman. So it's going to be cool to see everyone's reaction when we come out of the theater.
Man, completely. That was a fun watch party, actually. I was just a few months in recovering from my back surgery. Remember, I saw that thing around my waist, so it'll be good not to have that thing all these years later. I mean,
chastity belts,
but you and I have seen each other since then. But that was a lifetime ago, dude.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, really, it was on so many levels.
5 years almost.
Personal, professional, for all of us. Yeah, and we had a lot of fun. The Batman watch parties really kind of truly encapsulate our whole kind of war cry that we were discussing earlier off mic about real true friendships. So you're a real person. We can talk shit on Twitter and Facebook and have these online personalities. What I can say about myself, good, bad, indifferent, I'm really honest to God the same dude, and that might be a turnoff for a lot of people, and I don't blame you. But you two guys are also you're the same guy. You both are. And that's very rare to, and I'm not saying you can't have a little bit of heightened personality because you're online or whatever. Of course, everybody can do that. But like at the end of the day, are you at core the same person that you correspond with on Facebook and Twitter? And you guys are. And that's what I love about BOF. That's why we get together. Like, we're not going to just be internet buddies. No, here's how we're going to do this. We break bread. You know, we drink together, we hug, we talk, we become friends and celebrate the mythos of all these things that we love, be it Batman, Star Wars, whatever. It's exciting. You
guys got a great crew of people.
And well,
I met quite a bunch of you guys, and
thank you
in person. You guys are all stand up folks.
Well, we love you too, bro, and I mean that.
Yes, man.
So so we're pumped for Batman. And listen, let me ask you just a quick question before we kind of segue to Star Wars. I am as pumped as I am for this, and it's truly for my personal taste, and as far as live action Batman, like, speaks really to my sensibilities. I am equally as excited for Michael Keaton's return in The Flash. I'm not gonna lie, I am. I mean, I just am. I'm almost in some ways more curious because what is he going to do 30 something years later? I was a junior in high school the last time he played Batman. 46 years old, man. What about you, Eric? Are you equally the same, indifferent? Like, where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I mean, he's my Batman, right? Like, he's my cinematic Batman. I was 13 when 89 came out, so I mean, it's weird. That's also the last movie I saw at a drive-in was Batman 89, so that's another connection I have. But still, like, he's kind of had a different career since Batman. He kind of was out of it for a while, and then he came back like with Birdman, and obviously he's had a career resurgence. And the fact that he's going back to this role that really made him people knew who he was before, but he's more a comedy guy. This kind of made him a movie star, and now he's going back there again after all this time. I'm very, very interested to see what we're going to get. We know a little bit about the framework of the story, so I mean, that part's going to be cool. How are they going to do it? How is he coming back? What time?
Sure.
All that stuff is going to be a lot of fun to see. So, yeah, I mean, to have him coming back, a lot of people just think it's like fan service, but I don't. I have a feeling he's going to be here for a while.
First of all, fan service, and this will tie into our Star Wars conversation, especially about the Rise of Skywalker, Aaron, is that there's nothing wrong with fan service if it's done well.
Yes.
So what if it's fan service if it's done well? Okay. I'll say this also, just one last thing about Michael Keaton. Everything you just said, 100% accurate. I agree. One little thing just to kind of throw in there. You mentioned kind of Birdman and that weird transition period of his career where he wasn't doing a whole lot, like kind of post-paper, which one of my favorite performances by him, by the way. But let's also remember he was a Spidey badass. He was a Vulture, man. He was a Spider-Man villain, and now he returns as Batman. That's freaking dope. I'm sorry, Aaron. Are you pumped about Keaton's return?
Oh, of course. I mean, he's also my Batman.
Sure.
I remember going to the theater and getting like a Batman cookie. I was like 8 or 9. But yeah, so I think the thing. So I'm not a big fan of Ezra Miller's Flash, but I can't think of Keaton just doing like a cash grab to do this. You know, kind of putting the cape and cowl back on, and that the story had to really intrigue him to get him to want to do this after so many years. And so that alone is the thing that's like, yeah, I'm sold. You know, I can't wait to see how you do this and pull it off. You know, even some of his interviews recently where he gets to kind of talk about it, like that dude's got such confidence. And I mean, he's the OG Batman, right? So
and he doesn't
kind of sits on the throne.
yeah.
You know, like, yeah, no, I'm, you know, this is, well, the reasons, I think his reasons are right. And it goes to your point, it goes beyond fan service, because if, you know, what I've heard is true, and I'm sure you guys know better than I do, but his sort of appearance in Batgirl, it, you know, signals that he is going to be around for a little longer.
Yeah, that's the plan as we know it, Ray Skywalker. Anyway, so
you thought you were going to slip that in there and I was going to get away with it? Yeah,
but I'm staying out of this one.
We'll wait for Star Wars, but also to a point you made a moment ago. And man, I don't want to lose I didn't want to interrupt you. You're on a roll, but you were talking about how. Oh yeah, you said something about how he wouldn't have done this if it wasn't good. Let's face it. At this point in his career, especially, he's so critically acclaimed, he really doesn't have to do it, does it? And let's remember, when he probably needed it a little more, he walked. Nothing against Joe Schumacher, nothing against Batman Forever, for those that love it, but he turned it down. He did. And he didn't believe in it. And so for him to come back to it, and it's not Tim Burton directing this, that to me, that speaks volumes. But all right, so we're all pumped for the Batman. We're pumped for the Flash, just Batman stuff in general. And, you know, Aaron, it's kind of funny. Ramey and I were talking today on the phone, and he made a real interesting point. We're going to get this film from Matt Reeves, and then it's going to lie somewhat dormant for a while, and it's going to, and the Batman shift is really going to go to Keaton with Flash and Batgirl until the second film is made. Because the HBO spinoff stuff with Oswald and everything, I don't really know personally what all that entails and what the timeline is or whatever. But so yeah, it's a little bit of everything. Let's not forget, just for the Affleck fans out there, he's not in it a whole lot as we understand it, but the dude still has a swan song, man. I think that's great. I really do. I think that's great for all the Batman fans on film, that Ben Affleck gets to go out with some dignity with his Batman. He even said that this is the most fun he's ever had playing the role in this film.
Yeah. I mean,
anyway.
We kind of know what happened on with the other one, so I understand why this would be the most fun he's had.
Well, yeah, but to be fair, he's also referencing B versus S in that, and he loves Zack Snyder in that, right? Yeah. So it sounds like even more than that. All right, okay. There's no good way to segue out of this. Batman's awesome. We're excited. All right, Star Wars time, right? All right. So what dropped yesterday was very exciting, was, as Star Wars fans, something we've been waiting on. And Aaron, you and I have debated this for probably very literally years about an Obi-Wan movie, but we are getting the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. We knew it. May 25th, the poster dropped. Guys, I'm so stoked for this. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Aaron. I'll let you take it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm going to say the trailer. The poster looks awesome. I mean, it has Obi-Wan Kenobi in the sand, sure. Right. Give me more. It's funny. I think what gets me most excited about this series isn't necessarily the character. While he's great, it's the fact that a lot of the elements that we've become familiar with, that have come to life via The Mandalorian, season 1, 2, the Book of Boba Fett. This is another chapter in the great Disney Plus series that they're kind of rolling out in terms of the building of Star Wars. So for that alone, I'm sold. I'm interested to see what take they pull off with Kenobi, and obviously Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader will have a presence there. So how that's woven in is intriguing to me. Did you read that Variety interview? Dude, so here's what's happening to me. I'm getting very, very hyped for like all of the Batman, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka, all those things, and I start to disengage because I will start to get very feverish over every little detail and try to put stuff together, and then I will Mephisto myself, as we've said on our show.
May I speak about one thing specifically on it? It's in the article. It can be quasi spoilerish for those that may not want to know anything, but it's kind of fair game. It's obvious that there's going to be flashback sequences with Anakin and Obi-Wan as Anakin between 2 and 3. And I think that's paramount to this thing moving forward. Also, let's face it, they didn't bring Hayden Christensen back to walk around and with James Earl Jones' voice and then a couple of scenes with his mask off, right? He's got to be physically present. Yeah. So that's exciting. That'll be really interesting to see.
Hope he's hitting the weights.
Yeah. Eric, you're stoked for that show, right?
Yeah, I've been stoked for Obi-Wan since, like I said before, like you said before, like we've been talking about as a film. I've wanted it as a film for a long time, so I'm definitely looking forward to this series. And Rick, we spoke about this a little yesterday on the phone. A series will lend more to be a bigger storytelling, right? We'll get more in depth, probably character building of this version of Obi-Wan and wherever he's at in his journey. So I'm really looking forward to this. I don't remember if Ahsoka's going to be in this.
I don't know, but I do know in the Ahsoka her own series that Hayden Christensen is obviously in it. Now at that point, he's got to be. Wait, where's the timeline on that? I'm backwards for a second.
Ahsoka?
Yeah, is he?
I think the Ahsoka show takes place after Vader.
So he's Force Ghost Anakin.
Yes,
with probably some. And here's the deal that ties into the special editions thing, and that's one of those special edition moments when Lucas replaced Hayden Christensen with Sebastian Shaw. That I said, no, it makes sense. I don't care if you don't like the prequels. That's how
you and I became friends, my friend. That's how this whole thing
Force Ghost stuff.
That's how this all started. Because I was like, we got into a very, very heated debate on Twitter about this. So
did we fuck you each other kind of thing?
Pretty much. I remember being like in a meeting and like angry tweeting.
It's New York. You come to Dallas.
Yeah. I was like, it makes no fucking sense, Rick. What are you talking about? Yeah. I mean, it's the same shit we were just texting each other about, like 20 minutes ago.
But who at the end of the day was standing, bro? Because it makes perfect sense. So Eric,
it does make sense, but I don't like it.
But you love the Boba Fett series. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna segue now.
No, I don't. But go ahead, continue.
So anyway, I've been so stoked with everything that I've seen. I've been very impressed with the live action stuff that John Fairview and Dave Filoni have pulled off. Obviously, with very talented directors from. Robert Rodriguez is a little controversial right now with a little spin, but oh gosh, I'm going blank on Ron Howard's
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Bryce Dallas Howard. She's so great.
Rick Famuyiwa.
Bryce Dallas. Yeah,
I can never say his.
Famuyiwa, yeah.
Good, just like you said it.
And then obviously Deborah Chow, who's done some Mandalorian stuff, and she did all 6 episodes. I like that she did all 6 episodes actually of the Obi-Wan thing because she'll live and die by it, and it's kind of a director's vision. And I like that. Oh, real fast, is Natalie Portman going to, or Sam Jackson? Are we going to see some of these prequel era actors? Just your guess. Okay.
I don't know. Boba, Tamora Morrison did say he wants revenge against Mace Windu, so maybe.
Yeah, right.
There's so many theories of Mace Windu surviving his
fall.
His fall and
Palpatine return. I don't know how, but he did. It's such a great troll with you. But all right, Eric, let's talk about the Book of Boba Fett. Now, you're a lifelong Star Wars fan, one of the most passionate and knowledgeable, by the way, Friends fans I know. And you are a big fan of The Mandalorian, fair to say?
Huge fan of The Mandalorian, yes.
Big fan of the animation, Clone Wars, Rebels, all that.
My man.
You like the prequels overall. You love the OT. You like the sequel trilogy overall, correct? Okay, Star Wars fan, unapologetically love it. You and I actually have a Facebook private page called The Rational Star Wars Fan.
Yes.
And hit us up Only if you're rational. But you're not.
Like 3 people.
I was going to say, like, not even the fandom.
It's really just you and I. This cat used to be, and the Rise of Skywalker came out. I don't know. With Boba Fett, I don't know. But the Book of Boba Fett, and for those that we're not recappers, but obviously this is post Return of the Jedi. Shows how he survived the getting again. It kind of that whole sequence of him escaping is like another thing reinforcing the special editions. Really, if you think about it, you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, it had Audrey 2 in it again, so that's what I call that Sarlacc version.
Yeah. But and then he's taken over Jabba's role, and
yes, he's the daimyo.
He's the daimyo, and he's on Tatooine, and it's his story, and he's with the Tuskens that we still kind of reference Sand People sometime. I get a little confused on that, keeping up with how they're referenced.
It's always been interchangeable, right? So
it has been like since the prequel era, but not back in the OT days, dude. But anyway, so I did not know what to think of the show. I didn't like. I'll be honest with you. I didn't like the trailers. The scene where he holds up his weapon and that looks so bad. It's still terrible. I can't believe they use it in marketing. But the first episode, and I watched it, and I remember going, did he just kill a freaking dragon? And then they behead it and ran it to the Tuskens, and now they're going to embrace him. That's an interesting decision. That's an interesting choice. I think I'm sold on this, and then I have just loved it ever since, and I've loved every episode. Now, Eric, you have not. Talk to us why.
No, I have not.
Well, let it rip.
I've mentioned this, and I've mentioned this on Twitter. So if you guys if you follow me, you know what I'm going to say. But I just don't think Morrison is a strong enough actor to lead a show. So that's a big part of it for me. It's hard for me to get invested in a character that I didn't read a lot of the expanded universe stuff, so I don't know much more about Boba Fett than what I saw in the films, which isn't much. And so I didn't really have that connection to him. And then to see now, and I remembered him as Jango Fett. He wasn't good with him either. So this is just more of the same for me. And I understand why they asked him to come back. It kind of would have been weird if they didn't, because he's still alive. I mean, he was just in Aquaman. Like, we've seen him recently. So if you wouldn't have asked the guy to come back, it might have been a little strange.
But not really, though. He played his dad. He didn't play him.
No, but I'm just saying, people have seen him recently. Like, he's fresh in people's minds, and they know that he was the character, right?
And he's a clone, so.
Right? And they're clones, so he looks exactly the same.
You know what? Touche. I didn't even think just for a split second and think about that. That's
right.
That's why I'm an idiot. Go ahead.
It's getting late. It's okay. I understand. It's almost your bedtime.
It's far ahead for you guys. I have no excuses. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's the biggest part of it for me. Some of the things in the story didn't quite mesh with what I would probably have expected, but I kind of got past that real early, and I just kind of said, okay, this is what they're going for now with him, and that's the way they're going to do the show. But that's one of the reasons the CGI has been a little rough at points. Like, now that I've seen all 7 episodes, like, obviously we're going to be spoilers. Like, what happened to the Hutts? We got a drop in of them, and they were there, and then they do this thing, and then they just leave, and they go back, and they're, you don't see them again. So there's just little things about the show that I haven't liked, but.
So J.J. Abrams directed this, is what you're saying?
Well, I have no problem with J.J.'s direction.
The
story.
But he does that. He drops little nuggets and disappears, right?
That's a whole other topic. That's a whole other topic. I don't want to. I'm not going to go down that road. That could be a whole other show or two.
It should be a show.
Yeah, but this whole the Book of Boba Fett, I'm kind of just like, okay, why? I didn't really need it, but the last 3 episodes were fantastic, right? Like that. The last 2 episodes were The Mandalorian. That's what it was.
No.
It was. Yes, it was.
No. It's world building around the character. It's all intertwined. No. I can't say this, I'm blue in the face.
It's not
you guys act like they put out a season and it flopped and everybody hated it, so then they brought in Mandalorian to save the day. This stuff was all filmed. It was all planned. It's part of the journey. All of it. It's world building around them. I will die on that hill. If they film them after some kind of backlash, then I would say
but that's not. I don't even think that's the point. They took the focus entirely off. I mean, the show is called The Book of Boba Fett, and the last half of this season had Boba. Okay, the last 2 episodes before episode 7, so episodes 5 and 6, he was only on screen for a minute.
Yep,
which is 1 minute in his own show.
But isn't that kind of on brand for the character?
I mean, ironically, yes. I mean, I said this as well. I was like, he's a background character that got put to the background on his own show. Like, yeah, that's a legit criticism.
Yes,
I mean, really, at the end of the day,
that does fit. Yes,
yeah. I'm sorry to go ahead, because I'm
no. I just feel like that.
Mouth.
I feel like that it's world building around him. It's also, face it, he was reintroduced via the Mandalorian show, also, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll shut up for a second. So, Eric, to come back to you. So because what I'm about to say will have more relevance after I get your full perspective from both of you.
Okay.
And then I'll probably forget. It's a point no one needed to know anyway. So, Eric, you are overall now. Are you satisfied with the series as a whole since it sucked you back in or sucked you in? I guess I should say.
Yeah, I'm satisfied. We had a whole episode with Luke Skywalker in it pretty much, which was awesome, which I wasn't expecting. So that was great. Grogu's back, like, in the world, back in this universe, which I'm kind of on it, but I understand why they did it and where they're going with that relationship. But yeah, I mean, I'm satisfied now because I got more Mandalorian. Like, that's how I look at it. The first half of the Book of Boba Fett, I didn't even need to see. It didn't matter. I don't care.
You don't like the big badass Wookiee played by Corey Jones.
Black Karsten.
Awesome. Black Karsten. Thank you. I knew that freaking actor's name. Couldn't think of the character's name. But
no, he's awesome. But they could have brought him into the Mandalorian. They could have brought him in. That scene where they're negotiating with him at the bar, and just don't rip this guy's arm off, and we'll take care of your tab and all that. You know what I'll say? I'll say this: it was cool to see Jennifer Beals again.
Yeah,
that was cool.
That scene was freaking dope, man.
Cool to see her.
All of it, and I love the whole thing with him and the Tuskens and their friendship and their bond. Even though I guess we're gonna forget the fact they raped and murdered Anakin Skywalker's mother, but
a tribe of them did that.
There's more than one.
Yeah, they're not all created.
The women, the children too. That whole that's the thing, man. Let's put this in perspective. This franchise, everybody freaking out today about that dude doing the spin. I'm like, what franchise this is from, right? I'm okay that you don't like it, but let's put this shit in perspective.
How do you that didn't even? I saw people commenting about that on Twitter, and I was like, is that the worst? Is that the least you can complain about?
I know.
I've got some stuff.
Some baggage. We got into a back and forth with the editor in chief at Screen Rant over this. It was and we were cool and respectful, but still, I was like, dude, come on, lighten up. But the Tusken scene where they give him the frickin' the worm, and he's on the peyote. Yeah. He wanders out into the. I mean, I thought all that was I like
that episode was pretty cool.
Yeah,
that episode was badass. And see, I like weird Star Wars. Weird Star Wars is my favorite Star Wars. That's why I love The Last Jedi and Empire so much. Those are weird freaking movies, dude. Both of them. Those are the 2 best Star Wars movies ever, is Empire and The Last Jedi, and they're freaking weird. And I felt tapped on that. So, Aaron, all right, so at least I kind of knew where Eric stood. You have been ambiguous at best. And I'm gonna listen. Eric and I we're gonna give you the floor. So just you have 2 minutes to just rant or do whatever you want to do.
And it's not even gonna be a rant. I mean, truth be told, I enjoyed the series not because it shared anything truly insightful about Boba Fett, but because it was world building of Star Wars. I have been a huge advocate that Star Wars needs to move beyond following a specific family, that being the Skywalkers, and grow and show us different parts of the universe, because we've only seen it through one lens, right? Through one narrative. And so that's why I truly enjoy the Mandalorian. It did something very different. I think a lot of the coolness or badassness of Boba Fett has been translated over to the Mandalorian. because there were other things that were in development. But like all the cool shit that they wanted to do with Boba Fett, they did with the Mandalorian. And so, you know, the moment he comes onto the scene, when we see him in Boba, that is in season 2, he's got to do some really cool shit, and he does. And we're all like, "Oh my god, Boba Fett's back! That's amazing!" Blah blah blah. And, you know, in the Mandalorian. And so when they announced the show, I was super excited about it because I wanted to know how he got the hell out of the Sarlacc pit. I wanted to know if they were going to live up to some of the stuff that had been talked about in comics and the EU and all of that, and it does. But then it did some really, really wonky stuff with the narrative, and I don't know if it's not necessarily the story itself, but it's the way that it was laid out. So the flashbacks, because what it did to me while I was watching the show was I'm trying to connect a lesson learned from the past and apply it to the future, right? And those things never happened. Ultimately, it comes full circle. We get it at the end of the episode of the season where he's like, "These are my people." So naturally, he needs to feel like he's a part of something, and that only gets answered at the end of the series. So that didn't really land for me, like his whole motivation for why he wanted to be the Daimyo and all of that stuff and take over. Like there was only because he could do it better. I thought that was kind of weak. The other stuff, but I will say is that in those interactions that he was having with other characters within Star Wars, I loved every bit of that stuff. Like the flashback stuff was some of my favorite stuff because the Tuskens have always been behind the scenes. And not really, you know, fully fleshed out characters, but you get a lot more of that. They're the way that they kind of hold themselves as a tribe and some of their challenges on Tatooine. The idea of the Pikes kind of running spice through Tatooine. I liked some of the backstory, but a lot of that had nothing to do with Boba Fett until it becomes like I need to rid the world of spice because it's ruining our people. Like, dude, how long have you been on this planet? Like, where were you on Kessel? You know what I mean? Like I'm sorry, I'm going to do some deep cuts. But like all of a sudden this sense of righteousness in a character that didn't earn it is there. And is it because he had a life altering moment in the Sarlacc pit? I don't know how long he was down there. You know what I mean? Like,
but could it also be this though, my friend? And this kind of goes to maybe the original
2 minutes.
It wasn't 2 minutes.
No, I'm kidding.
No, the floor is still yours. I'm asking you to. No, I was just going to say that. Don't you think the original sin of this is that, I mean, in terms of fandom's perspective, was that they had written this, let's get rid of the books and everything.
I'm going to answer your question. Yes.
Because really at the end of the day, live action is true canon for live action. Now, obviously, with Dave Filoni in charge, Rebel, I mean, there's exceptions to that rule, but the 90% of the people that see these movies just watch the movies, if not 95%. And so people wrote this character in their head for so long that was really just a glorified cameo, who, by the way, died like a punk in Return of the Jedi by, I jokingly say, a blind man, because he, in theory, was. So to going back to your other point about sort of who this guy is and expectations or whatever, however you framed it, but you think some of that just has to do with the fact that we wrote this character in our head in a certain way?
He had some big shoes to fill. That, I mean, and that's he was never going to win that battle. I mean, I do think though that he was set up. Even the trailers kind of set up this Godfather type show, and it never delivered on it. It was a sense like he would be trying to win over, Mos Eisley and trying to like flip over the crime syndicate to become his own, bend it to his will. You know what I mean? Like I don't rule like that. Like there were trailers like that got me really hyped on this idea of like a true crime story, and we didn't get it. What we got were a lot of flashbacks, him kind of like, being angry and beating up the Nikto bike gang or killing them and whatever. Or then and then some. And I'll be honest, there are some elements in this show, design elements, that to me don't feel like Star Wars. That kind of threw me out. Like that whole biker gang stuff. Some people,
the Voltron Force.
I cannot stand that shit at all. Like, oh yeah, we're bionic people. I'm like, I get it, but that's kind of weird. And the way y'all are riding your bikes, and the bikes don't seem that fast either. So I have a whole lot of stuff with that. But
I just feel like those same guys are going to pull up at the diner in episode 2 and have breakfast. And I mean, so to me, it is Star Wars, because the prequels,
With Dex.
And I hate that scene.
Yeah,
I absolutely despise that scene. So you're 100% right.
Actually, it's funny. Yeah, well, there you go. Right, touche. But
yeah, and there was, the thing is too, like even when Mando pops up in like the meat locker, it's a dope scene, but it feels too familiar. Like it feels like, oh, I know a meat locker like that. Like I've seen stuff like that before, and that so other people have said this too, and I agree with them. Like those kind of moments kind of pull me out of Star Wars. It makes me feel like I'm familiar with this, and so it's not. It feels like home, kind of like
the fantasy elements kind of removed.
Exactly, the sci-fi piece of it.
Yeah,
and they're being run by like dogs. It's kind of weird.
I love the Force Awakens. I think it's just a feel good, uplifting, fun, lovely Star Wars movie. I love it. But I cannot stand the line from Han Solo. It was like a trash compactor. I just almost felt like he was going to look at the camera and wink at us. Like remember that scene from the first one? Right. Yeah. So I feel you on that.
But all in all, like if I were to rank the show based on, so I'll tell you, after episode 4, I was like, oh boy, this kind of feels a little weird to me now. 5, 6, 7. Like took this to like a whole other level because it delivered some of the best of Star Wars, and it absolutely and I'd say maybe half of episode 7 had nothing to do with Boba Fett. The moment the Mandalorian, I tweeted this, the moment Mandalorian stepped onto that screen, Boba Fett became completely irrelevant to me.
But
he's more. I care more about him. I care more about where Grogu is. I care more about the connection between those two characters. I care more about the battle that he has to fight with his own clan. The fact that he's wielding the Darksaber, all of that stuff. I care more about all of that than anything that ever happened with Boba Fett, because they pretty much summarized the biggest question for me, which was, how the hell did you get out?
How did he survive? Yeah.
And that was it.
But didn't you always care more about Luke Skywalker than you ever did Han Solo? But doesn't mean we didn't love Han, dude. And that's how I look at this. Absolutely, Mandalorian is a superior character. But he's
the central character. Well, you're supposed to care more about Luke Skywalker.
Well, the movie's not called The Skywalkers. It's called Star Wars.
We just had this conversation yesterday.
I know. Listen, I know. I'm not going to contradict myself.
It's the Skywalker saga, right?
Of course it is. Absolutely.
So,
but you didn't know that as when I was watching the first couple. You know what I mean? Like that really became apparent when the whole six films revolved around that.
You're wrong.
But I'm just making a larger point here. My point is, it doesn't mean that just because you care about a character more doesn't negate caring about another character. Is all I'm saying.
No, but when that character's name is in the title of the show,
well, you don't get wrapped up in that stuff.
That becomes super problematic when you introduce the Mandalorian. It's just his silhouette, and I'm like, oh my god,
right. The show is called The Book of Boba Fett, and like Aaron said, there's a couple of episodes where he's barely in it. They're Mandalorian episodes, and I said this. I might have said this to you, Rick. I wonder if those were always supposed to be part of a Mandalorian season. Like those specific stories were supposed to be part of the end of season 2. I don't know, but I wonder if the ones we got, at least 5 and 6, I wonder if those were supposed to be part of the Mandalorian.
And when I say don't get wrapped up, I don't mean if all of a sudden it has nothing to do with that character, that it's okay that it's called Book of Boba Fett. Obviously, that would be ridiculous. I'm just saying, I think those 2 episodes still served a greater purpose for that character and the world building around them. And I think episode 7 delivered. I mean, I put on Twitter a photo from the original Lethal Weapon with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover going same energy, because it felt like that to me. It felt like these great cop buddies. I love their dynamic and them kicking ass together in that episode. I loved it. To me, that was a payoff for all this. And also, we got to look at this in its totality, right? It's okay that we judge the first season. We have every right to do that as fans. But I do think that we'll look at this at 20,000 feet when this is all kind of said and played out, right? And it's very obvious at this point that those 2 shows are really intertwined. And maybe they should just ditch the name of both those shows and call it Badass MFers with Helmets, or I don't know. But I mean, I'm kidding. But
no, I mean, like,
you know what I'm saying, though, to just make it some kind of collective Star Wars show.
It should have been named like The Mandalorian, the chapter of Boba Fett or something like that, where you're like, okay, I'm signed up for a little pause in the action with Mando to kind of visit Boba Fett, because that's very much what this felt like.
Yep. I agree.
And look, I agree that, you know, watching Mando and Boba together doing battle is amazing, but let's not forget that Boba had Fennec Shand with him the entire time, and not once did they deliver that kind of action. And there was the potential to do that.
She's badass, by the way.
She is.
She's barely.
She's so great.
But she's barely in the show, and she barely does. She's a counselor.
Yeah.
She's a consigliere. Like, that's fine, but you're
but her name's not in the,
assassin.
but according to you guys, her name's not in the title, so it doesn't matter. Just all right. So
Well, no, she was considered the second lead of the show, right? Like, it was him and her, and the in the finale, after she saves the group, you barely see her again.
Yeah,
after she
that,
saves
that assassin scene, and then you're like,
Yeah.
oh shit, I forgot all about you.
yeah,
like-
but she does some wicked badass stuff when she's there. So it's like
Now she's been in the animation too, so
Yes.
like you have a little bit more background with her.
They
and
are
there's
flushing
cross.
her out,
Right.
Okay.
big time, and like she's actually becoming a very interesting character in all of Star Wars. Like, but to your point, Rick, a lot of people don't watch some of that animated stuff, right? They think it's kid shit.
Well, no, and here's the deal. Like, I actually, we joke. I have not watched all of it. I can't lie. The animation is blocky and weird to me, but the storytelling is always captivating. And so I always have to reconcile that when I watch Clone Wars or Rebels. I don't like the animation. I don't like it. I think it's weird. I feel like I'm doing acid in the 90s again, but not that I ever did, just kidding. But
Sure.
but I do love the storytelling, and I love, how it kind of closes some gaps and fills some details in that much needed it. And then I think we're going to get that in live action, obviously, with between episode 2 and 3 with the Obi-Wan show. But let's address two last things here to wrap this up, because this will be a fun topic. I really, the whole some of the characters that we got to see in this that were unexpected. I mean, Bane.
Yeah, Cad Bane.
Dude, that is awesome, and that dude's still alive. There's no way he's dead.
Well, he's old. Man. He is old.
Yeah, he is old.
He is old, but I don't know. And that's a badass scene. And by the way, everybody's like, man, they made Boba Fett soft. I'm like, the Boba Fett that died like a punk by a blind man in Return of the Jedi, that guy that wrestled and killed a dragon in his first episode and then kicked this dude's ass. I mean, I don't think so. But let's talk about Luke for a minute. We'll kind of wrap it with this. When I saw the last episode of Mandalorian, I loved it, but it wasn't my favorite Mandalorian episode, and I wasn't going to make it my favorite just because of that scene with Luke showing up to get Grogu. But it was really well done. It was neat to see, but seeing him and Boba Fett episode 5, right? That's when we got him, correct? 5?
6.
6 was when we got him?
6. Yeah.
6 the first time. You're right. Yeah, 6, because he was just in the one episode. The CGI, because they take Mark Hamill's performance, the body double that looks enough like Mark Hamill and shaped like he did in 1983, 4, and then they merge that together with CGI. So you're getting Mark Hamill in that performance, and that's one of the reasons I'm invested in it. Like seeing Princess Leia in Rogue One. Obviously, she was deceased at that point, right? She was correct. Was she already gone?
No, she was around.
But she wasn't. But she wasn't a part of that process at all.
No.
And this he is, and so I'm sold on it. But man, the way he looked and Boba Fett, they improved that dramatically.
100%.
That was Mark Hamill in 1986 doing Luke Skywalker. You know what I mean? Like 2 or 3 years after Return of the Jedi. And then to be on screen with Ahsoka, dude, that was so good. Mm-hmm. I mean, so good. Yeah, you're so much like your father, whatever she says to him. You're like, what? Oh my God, this is crazy. And then you also know that Hayden's back, and it is so, again, good fan service. There's nothing wrong with it. But Eric, so what are your thoughts on Luke being in this, and what does the future hold as this show moves forward? And with that, I'll just kind of throw all this against the wall. What else are we going to see? Are we going to see other characters? Are we going to see Han Solo played by the gentleman that played him?
Alden.
Alden. I want to say Aaron. Alden. Thank you. What do you guys think?
I think they need to be careful with this because you don't want to oversaturate it again. And as Aaron said, you kind of want to start moving away from that storyline and build more of the Star Wars universe. For me, as a huge Luke Skywalker fan, of course, I love seeing him come back and being in that time period post Jedi because we don't have that. Like, we didn't get that. So it's cool to see him in these little bits and pieces. And I hope we continue to get him in little bits and pieces, but I would never want them to do too much because that takes away the specialness of it. So as far as like Han, if they want to do more from Solo and with Alden Ehrenreich, I liked him in playing Han Solo. I think he did the best he could, knowing you're replacing an iconic character. And if you try to do a carbon copy of Harrison Ford, you would have got shit talked about you for that. So I kind of, if they want to do more with that, I don't know if they would attach it to Solo still. I know Rick doesn't like Solo, but I know, I wouldn't mind seeing more of that because, of course, in Solo we get more Darth Maul as well, and I'm a big Darth Maul guy. So there's a lot of different ways you could go with the Solo character. But I would, if they do more Han Solo, I hope it is more that kind of stuff that we got in Solo. But yeah, I mean, you just got to be careful. I think you got to be real careful with.
I'm with you on the Luke Skywalker thing. I've commented that Skywalkers are the biggest burden for Star Wars right now because the moment you introduce a Skywalker or bring them into the fold, they will suck the air out of everything else that's in the room. Because you get you're enraptured by it. You're back to, the things that you loved the most about Star Wars, and you're willing to forget and forgive everything that's ever happened before. And or totally forget that there's a whole future and other characters that you should be invested in. So I appreciated that episode. I agree. I think the use of the deep fake in this episode or in this series is actually kind of scary because it showed how fast the technology has advanced. I know that they hired a guy who does this, like, he's a pro. His name is Shamuk. If you ever are interested, check out his YouTube channel, because what he'll do is he'll take like famous scenes of Batman, The Dark Knight, and he'll put Robert Pattinson's face on Christian Bale's body. It's pretty wild. Some of the stuff that he's done. So he was working on it, and obviously it's 95% better. There's some still, we're still in the uncanny valley territory where like his head will turn and I'm like, ooh, that's a little weird. That's not how a face is supposed to look. But overall, I thought it was really well executed. I think the thing that troubled me a little bit about that is Luke hasn't really progressed a little bit, and he's still in the black robes, the black outfit, which I thought was a little weird, but I know it's still fairly early. But as him, sort of embracing being the Jedi Master, I kind of assumed that he would take on some of the lighter colors, the robe, all of that. I love the fact that we see the temple, the Jedi temple, being built and constructed, and that is the very same temple that gets destroyed in The Last Jedi. Loved all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's great.
Some of the lessons that he was teaching are also fascinating to me because it kind of places where he is and his optimism or uncertainty as well, sort of taking on students and that. But what I thought was really weird was this conversation about the you have to choose. I thought it was a little weird and a little forced, no pun intended, because it's very old school Jedi stuff. That rule of attachment thing, when in fact it's his attachment to his sister at the end of Return of the Jedi that helps bring him back from the dark side. Yeah,
but that's also someone has Jedi sensibilities too, though. Jedi can rally behind Jedi. I'll put it. Here's a good example of something on that note. I've had a lot of people say that to me, right? That it seems like he's regressed a little bit, like some of the things he did, he's not doing. But let me take a restaurant business analogy. Bear with me. Over the years and owning, running, managing restaurants and bars, whatever, I have promoted within 1 million times. And I have taken bartenders or servers that were really good servers, bartenders, but they were the person that went and, they would do a shot during the shift when they weren't supposed to, or they'd steal some food in the back and they eat off of it, or whatever they would do, right? Some kind of unscrupulous, unsavory things that you kind of knew were going on, but it was like your threshold. Then you promote them to management. You pull them aside and you're kind of like, you're going to be more as I say, not as I do from this moment forward, right? You have to now play the role of manager and a leader. And yeah, you did those things, but you can't do them anymore and you can't tolerate them anymore. It's not contradictory. It's part of growing. And I would have to train bartenders and servers that were going into management with that philosophy. To me, that's what this is. Luke did a lot of things that were in contrast to what he was teaching Grogu, right, or trying to. But he also knew that it didn't matter to the things that he did necessarily. He's got to stick to what Jedi are supposed to do. And that's the most personal analogy I can give. And that's why I was able to justify that. I was like, this is the same thing as this personal thing I've done in my life. That's what he's doing. I
get that.
And some of the stilted stuff. And again, I'm not trying to tie myself up in pretzels to justify things that are maybe shouldn't be defended, but even some of the language and persona is akin to how everybody moved around and talked and looked and turned their heads in the prequels. The prequels was very stiff, and everybody was everyone's doing yoga in their meditation. Yeah, and everybody's speaking like lawyers, and that's inherent in him now, and especially now he's hung out with Hayden's Force Ghost. I mean, he's picking up some bad habits, but come on, that was kind of funny. Nothing? No? Anyway. No. All right. It's
I'm tired of talking about him. Continue.
But so anyway, but Eric, it's a big part of this, right? I mean, Luke Skywalker being in this is crazy. All right, so
real quick before we, the one thing I will say is that I do feel like they are testing the waters for a Luke Skywalker show. And I don't want this. I so do not want this. As cool as it would be, again, it just becomes one of those things that it just sucks the air out of the room. And
maybe
I think the technology is getting there, and I think people would be like killing themselves to see the show, witness the show, experience the show. But for all of Star Wars, I think we should leave it alone.
Maybe so, but as long as Mark Hamill's on set every day. But I want to see some. And listen, I'm not trolling on this. I would like to see Rey Skywalker. I'd like to see her again. And now, I would like to actually see a young Ben Solo, and with this.
I think we absolutely. See Ben Solo.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I was gonna like when he gave Grogu the choice. I'm like, well, if he picks the lightsaber, are they gonna set up like a Jedi Academy show now and have that kind of a deal with Luke leading the new Jedi, and we get Ben Solo in that kind of a show? I was kind of hoping he chose the lightsaber for that reason, because I think that would be a cool concept.
And wasn't it established in the sequels? And forgive me, this is a question I really don't know. I'm trying to remember that Ben Solo was his first student. Was that suggested or no?
Well, technically it's Leia.
Yeah, Leia was his first student.
Oh, true that. Yes. Okay, well, but at least it wasn't Grogu, though, obviously.
I guess that's why they had to make Grogu choose the...
I mean, it was right? Like in plain sight the entire time. Like when Mando gets his ship, obviously there's a little pod in the back where the droid used to be. The fact that he was giving him the Mithril shirt. I'm sorry, the Beskar.
Right, sure.
Yeah. Well, but it was all on the wall. I knew he was coming back.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, though, they did fool the shit out of me when Luke's X-Wing up, and I was like, oh my god, here it is right now. Everyone's gonna be like, and then they're like, psych, it's actually Grogu and R2.
Yeah, dude, he sent him on his own like personal lift.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so listen, overall though, we like the show. We're ready for episode 2, whatever that entails. Mandalorian, it's all intertwined now. At the end of the day, can we all agree that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau and their amazing creative team from, every director, everybody, that they did the unthinkable, in my opinion, is they pulled off live action on TV.
These two, I've said this so many times, but these are the stewards of Star Wars. Favreau and Filoni understand Star Wars better than anyone out there. Filoni is obviously like the apprentice, now the master of George Lucas. Him coming from animation, he brings different sensibilities to the world, and he can do no wrong. So anything that he's touched, even the episode that I'll tell you, the first episode he directed of The Mandalorian was the weakest in my opinion, but I've seen the episode he directed on the second season, and then the episode he directed on the Book of Boba Fett. He has grown tremendously,
and that's going to be a weird transition for him, going from animation to live action and directing actors, not voice actors, but that's because that's a different animal, right? Not to say that
he's clearly the idea guy, right? Like, he's the one whose brain you want. I think Favreau is obviously a better director. He's directed
and writer.
Films, right?
Yeah,
and writer. Sure. So I think, but you definitely have them as a team. Like Aaron said, they are. I so wish they did the sequel trilogy. I like it, but I think had they done it, it would have been much, much better.
I wish he would have done the prequel trilogy first, though. and I will defend those films, but let's face it, man, the franchise is so beautifully flawed. Hey, this has been a great conversation. And Aaron, did you have any last statements on this particular topic? I want to give you the floor.
No. Just that as long as they're attached to whatever shows are coming out, it's going to be gold.
Gotcha.
These guys can't miss.
One last Star Wars question, and we'll wrap up here, do some plugs, get the hell out of here. Ben Kenobi. That was one of those prequel things that never got addressed. Like in the original films, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. So name I haven't heard before you were born. Well, no, bullshit. Right? We never heard that once in episode 3 or 2. So does that play in? Is this guy going to be Ben Kenobi?
I mean, someone's got to call him Ben.
Yeah, the name's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And
I know everyone was like chomping at the bit to figure out how Han Solo got his name, only for it to be like,
he was a solo. He was by himself.
You're by yourself. Okay, last name Solo.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Love it.
Love it.
It is actually way better than The Rise of Skywalker.
I do like The Rise of Skywalker, but I do like.
I hear the judges rule on this one. All right. Let's definitely wrap this up with a quick Batman question, then we're going to do plugs.
Okay.
Eric,
yes,
we're going full circle to the top. The Batman. We're Batman on film. What is the single thing? It can be anything you want it to be that you are most excited for as the Batman. And let me tell you what mine is. Mine is Colin Farrell. I don't know why I like to say Colin Farrell. I don't know why I do that as the Penguin. And the reason it is for me is because I so desperately wanted. I always root for the underdog, and I always thought he was such an underused villain. Even in the TV show, he was just kind of lame. It was Burgess Meredith, obviously. That's Mickey from Rocky we love. And then I didn't like the interpretation that Tim Burton did at all. So I wanted a Nolan style Oswald, and I'm getting that. And I think that he's a very interesting actor, and I think that was a bold choice. I'm so excited to see that performance, almost more than anything in the film. What is your thing that you're most excited about?
I'm gonna go the other villain. I want to see Danos Riddler. It's a very, very different take on the character. Mm-hmm. He is very good at these kind of roles. If you've seen any of his other work, this is something he does very well. He plays creepy well, let's just be honest. So I really, really want to see just how dark he is in this. That's kind of the thing I'm looking most forward to. With Batman, it's usually the villains. But I'm interested, obviously Pattinson's Batman. I mean, he is Batman, and this is what, the fourth one we're getting live action? Yeah, right? Fourth different actor, or fifth?
If you want to go back to the serials and count those two, and then Adam West, and then there's 3 more there. But I mean, the casting was so, like Keaton, right? The casting was so criticized when they picked Pattinson. Yeah. So of course I want to see him as well. So. Yeah. Sure. Aaron, what about you, buddy?
It's actually Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Traditionally, Bruce Wayne is this debonair billionaire, air of confidence and rugged good looks and all of that stuff. And I like the fact that it feels like Pattinson's Bruce Wayne is a little emo, like sort of that socially awkward. So like when he comes off a little weird, you'd never believe that somebody who looked or acted like him could possibly be Batman. And just that ability to switch from that shy, timid, sort of awkward personality into this raging, brooding, angry, powerful character, I think is a fascinating turn. And I think it's an interesting choice in terms of how he looks to be played.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think back on Bruce Wayne moments, and here's two of my favorite in film. It's when I love how Christian Bale plays the persona of Bruce Wayne. It's not him. He doesn't even like it, but he does it for the front. Obviously, Robert Pattinson's Batman Bruce Wayne doesn't have the ability to do that. But it's in The Dark Knight when they're on the rooftop and he's hosting that the
Harvey Dent campaign.
The Harvey Dent campaign. He's like, the Harvey Dent, all cheesy and toast, and then he walks off. He's like, you can almost hear him go, "Fuck this shit," And he tosses the champagne. Rachel comes out, and then all of a sudden he's just Bruce. It's so great. And then my second favorite live action Bruce Wayne scene, and I'm not kidding. He's like, "It's Japanese." How do you know that?
Because I bought it in Japan.
God, that's a great line.
You know that.
It really is.
And they were like, oh.
Yeah, it's such a great line. Bruce Wayne. All right, so let's get out of here on that note. It's late, especially for you guys. You're an hour ahead. Thank you both so much for doing this. I mean, obviously, Eric, I don't need to thank you. This is your show, too. Eric, I know that we're both part of Batman on Film, but let's you and I do a quick plug, then we'll let our guests. Follow me on Twitter at Shew Rick, my personal, and then follow our BOF show for the Satellite Show. And then, Eric, you tell us about what's going on with you and the stuff that you're up to.
You can always follow me on Twitter as well. It's Finally33, spell Finale 33. Follow the other show that I am co-host for. Of course, I'm talking about Straight Outta Gotham. I co-host with Peter Vera, who's also a member of Batman on Film. We have our show page our show account on Twitter is at @straight_O_G. Check us out also on Facebook. We have a show page and a Facebook fan group. So hop into the fan group. Pete always posts all the stories we're going to talk about on the upcoming podcast, so you can get a head start there. And then after we talk about it, you can come yell at us afterwards on Twitter. So that's perfect. That's what I want. I want that interaction. So go ahead and do that.
Absolutely. And then Aaron Viola, talk to us.
Yeah, you can follow me directly on Twitter at @AARonSpeaks. That's _A_Ron Speaks. Or you can follow my podcast. It's the Fanboy Garage. So that at the Fanboy Garage, we have a Twitter, Facebook, Instagram page, and you can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever great podcasts are found.
It's a fun show. You guys do a really good job.
Thank you, sir.
Great job, in fact. Follow us on proper at Batman on Film. If you're on Facebook and you want to have good conversations about Star Wars, follow me and Eric's page, the Rational Star Wars page, and then follow us on the private Batman on Film. What do we call that thing technically? It's the Batman on Film Facebook group. The group. Fan group. The fan group. Thank you. The fan group page.
But that you have to go through clearance for that one. So.
You have to go through clearance. We'll call you Aaron. You're not on there with us, and you're on Facebook. You need to be.
Yeah, all right. I'll probably fail the test, but
I'll see it. I'll let you. I can let people.
I wanted to tag you earlier. He's not even on this.
I got
what the hell is that all about? Anyway, I'm Rick Shew. Again, thank you for following Batman on Film and listening to the episode 10 of the Satellite Show. And if you're in Dallas on March 5th for the watch party, we cannot wait to break bread, have a beer, shake your hand, and give you a hug. That's what we're all about here on Batman on Film. No bullshit. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Anyway, thanks a lot. And announcer Rachel will take us out.
You've been listening to the Batman on Film Satellite Show, BOF's non-Batman pop culture podcast. Follow the show on Twitter at BOF Show. Follow BOF on Twitter at The Batman on Film. For all of Team BOF, I'm announcer Rachel. Authoritative, definitive, the original Batman on Film, established in 1998.